if you have the hook, you can do whatever else you want around it and get away with it, basically, because everybody's looking for that hook.
Welcome everyone to this podcast. I'm Dean Wolfe, and I have with me today Mark Zonder. He's from A to Z. A to Z has two albums now. The new one's called A to Z Squared. Is that what you're calling it, or just two?
Yep. Yep. No,
Okay.
squared.
So of course the band name comes from, well, Z is you, Mark Zonder,
Yep.
and A is Ray Alder. Is that what the start A is?
Yeah. Yeah. You can say that, but at the same time, it actually came from when we were sitting around trying to figure out a name from a band for a band. Ray kind of came up with this thing about it was all inclusive. Well, yeah, because the first record had little different things on it. He said, yeah, the music kind of goes A to Z, A through Z. It was more, and then it just kind of dawned on us like, well, wait a minute, the A and the Z work too. And it's the two guys, that, kind of put the whole thing together, or, technically. So it's not like we were missing somebody else and someone else's name needed to get in there. But A through Z covers everybody.
So you didn't really have to sweat too much thinking about a band name.
Oh no, we sweat for a long. The band name's the hardest thing, and the truth of the matter is, if you sell a million records, every name sounds great. Let's just picture you and me in the basement in 1975 or whatever, smoking a joint and going, dude, let's call the name of the band Rush. You would have looked, no, or hey man, how about we call it Journey? No, 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 no. So it's the toughest thing going. It really is.
I am kind of new to your band. Oh, pretty new actually.
Okay.
And I listened to the new album, and I just actually dipped back and listened to a track from the first album. Really impressed. I really love it. It takes me back to the 80s.
Okay.
It reminded me of that good vibe. There's something about the 80s and metal and hard rock. It had a real positivity to it. And I think A to Z, your new album for sure, has a very positive feeling to it. What is that, just me, or what? How would you say?
No, I think what you might be, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think what you're going for right there is the melodicness. I think, and when I mean melodic, yes, okay, a guitar lead can be a melodic, a vocal line can be be melodic, but the intro to the verse to the chorus, the whole journey of the song has a melodic feel to it where it's picking you up and then it lets you down. It gives you emotion as compared to a lot of music, today is just, 100 miles an hour in your face nonstop and it's over. Or it's slowing, grungy the whole 4 or 5 minutes. There's not a lot of dynamics. There's not a lot of emotion. I think that's more, not more where you're coming from, but that's what I get out of it. When I listen to it, it's picking me up and letting me down. And I can feel like when the chorus hits and it's jamming, it's the good old-fashioned headbanging kind of stuff. A lot of that also has to do with the arrangements. It doesn't go on and on and on and just doesn't go anywhere. They're kind of, we have one song that's 6 minutes, everything's shorter than that. And it's just short, sweet, and to the point. Get to the chorus, big choruses. That was the whole premise when I started the band. It's all about the chorus. It's about the hook. I joked about it, but it was, beer commercial, car commercials, and Cobra Kai. It was like, it's got to be to have the hook. Because if you have the hook, you can do whatever else you want around it and get away with it, basically, because everybody's looking for that hook. And that was the whole goal when I started this, the 2 albums ago and everything. That was it. And so we're just keeping on with that. But no, I appreciate it. I think someone else said it sounds familiar, but it doesn't sound familiar. It feels like an old shoe, but it's a brand new shoe, if that makes any sense. It has a lot of the things that harken back that a lot of people really, really like about music. I mean, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything here.
And you were saying the hook was pretty important right from the start, you're saying. And
Yep.
why was that? Why was that, or the chorus, I should say, not the hook, the chorus. Why was that so important to you?
I mean, that's the way you get to the masses. That's the way you appeal to more people. And if I didn't want to appeal to more people, I would just sit in my studio here all day and kind of do the Eddie Vedder where like, oh, I don't want the fame. I don't want the record deal. I don't want the adulation. But no, that's not it. Since I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a rock star. And, it's the way I figure how you get there.
Mhm.
It's been a lot of years and I haven't gotten there, so maybe I should change my course and go back to college or something. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But
No,
no,
no, keep doing what you're doing. I think you're on track here. This album's great, honestly. Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you. But
yeah.
it's all about the hook. It's all about just the emotion. I think something comes into it and it's not an ego thing. But I've been listening to music for so long, and I come from a wide variety of background when I was raised that I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Or more importantly, what moves me. And usually what moves me is a pretty straight up commercial pop song, if you want to call that. As much as I played in Fates Warning for 15 years and had a reputation as the big prog guy and everything, I'm at home listening to Motown. I'm listening to Chaka Khan. I'm listening to, or Lionel Richie and, the Commodores, amongst other stuff too. I mean, I love bands like UFO and Thin Lizzy and all that, but they're all bands with great choruses and big hooks. Because I came up right through that 70s into the 80s, like you're talking about. And all those songs, even the heavy rock bands, Whitesnake, it was all about the hook. Deep Purple, it was about the hook.
Mhm.
And if you have that, you can kind of roll on out. And, the object's to grab the audience, not alienate them. That's
Right.
kind of key.
Right. So it sounds like you've sort of been on both sides of the table. I guess maybe you've felt that sometimes you've wanted to sort of indulge your creativity and just, because progressive rock it's kind of indulging in a way, isn't it? Would you say?
It can be certain bands indulge more than others. The real trick to that one is, where I come from, anyways, it's a very limited audience. You kind of pigeonhole yourself, and you've got these people, and they're diehard and they're ravenous and they'll buy everything four times and that, but it's kind of limited. It is kind of prog music is kind of a thing for musicians, uh, because I always said, when I used to do my drum clinics, I used to ask people, what do you think the greatest drum riff of all time is? And I'd play four kicks on the four quarter notes on the kick drum. I go, everybody gets that. My mom gets that. It's four quarter notes. You get it. It's a heartbeat. No one, my mom's not going to get Dave Weckl. My mom's not going to get, crazy, like over the top killer players that the prog guys really love and that kind of stuff. So it's more just appealing to the masses, I guess you could say. Plus, to be honest with you, it's kind of music that I love and that I listen to. Um, as much as I would, like I said, I was in phase warning for 15 years. It got a little stressful at the playing stuff live. A bar of six, a bar of four, a bar of three. It's nothing. Maybe some guys can't. I can't feel that. I've got to be thinking about that. I got to be conscious of it. I just can't jam away.
Right.
So it's stressful. Now, if I was playing in a band and we were playing to 20,000 people every night, I could deal with the stress, okay? But when you're a lot of those bands, when a lot of that's 15 years, we're grinding it out, and it was tough. It was tough, and not under the greatest of circumstances, and situations. So, but no, it's just the kind of music that I like.
So I was curious, the new album, A to Z 2 or Squared, what was easy about it and what was difficult about it?
Difficult. The only thing that was difficult about the record is the music industry in the respect of how long it takes when you finish a record by the time it comes out. Metal Blade, the label is absolutely great. Known those guys and dealt with them for 40 years, with various bands and everything. The label is great. It's not the label. It's the fact that these days, you turn in a record, you got the vinyl, you got the this, you got the that. It takes so long. I remember the days, you would turn in a record, the record would be out in a month and a half and you'd be on tour, but now it's a 6 month to 7 month delay. Yeah, so that gets a little frustrating. You're done with the record. There's nothing you can do. You can't promote it, you can't tour it, you can't do anything because it's going to take so long. That's the hardest part. Everything else was easy. I mean, you surround yourself with guys that you love, that you trust, um, that buy into the system. If it's a sports team, I'm the coach and they bought in. They were on it. They knew exactly where we're going. It's always beautiful in a band when you have all six guys, especially six guys. It's not a three-piece band or anything. that are pulling in the same direction, and they all get it, and they know where we're going. It was just a pleasure, you know. We'd be putting together songs, and I have an idea, and let's just say, okay, you know, Ray comes back with the vocals, and he's accenting like in a triplet feel here. Hey, how about we like accent with them? And what I would get back with guys would be going, well, okay, Mark, that's really cute. Okay, but check this out. And since they're the guitar player and the keyboard player, they would take it another level up, you know, play two harmonies on top of it and all this kind of stuff. And it was joyous to see it being blooming like that. The like basic ideas would just explode. And each guy coming from a different, you know, they're different ages, different backgrounds, different bands that they've played in, different bands that they're into. And all that just comes together and it's in like a pot of soup with all these different ingredients that just work so well together.
As a Prog fan, my Prog ear could tell right away you guys are all kind of Prog oriented, but it didn't sound like straight out Prog. How is this album different than your first album?
After the first album, I changed guitar players and keyboard players, which is kind of a major shift. But you know, if let's face it, if you had a job and you don't show up at your job, you basically get fired. So, you know, and I wasn't going to have my career held hostage. This was something that I decided to do because I have 19, well, in July they'll be 19-year-old twins. So for, you know, the last 19 years or so, I wasn't going on the road. I wasn't doing all the crazy things that I used to do before because I wanted to raise my kids. So when they all became about 16, it was kind of like, okay, and Mark, if you're going to go, it's time to go. Okay, put your money where your mouth is. Find the best people that you can, all the way from like Hugh Syme doing the art to the guys in your band to whoever's doing your t-shirts or whatever. Just if you're going to go, you got to go. You can't just kind of like play around. I mean, I actually auditioned 9 different engineers to mix this record, the mix the first record. You know, one guy had 9 Grammys, you know, but Simone was the guy who delivered and he's mixed both records and actually played all the leads on the second album. But the they're just they're different because the writing's a little different. You know, you bring in a different writers and you start working with different guys. I'm utilizing their strengths. I'm not saying, hey man, make it sound like the first record. So we took the strength of that and then we collaborated and we went with it. A big difference between the first and the second record is the first record keyboard player was very Genesis, yes, Gentle Giant kind of influence where the keyboards are kind of lighter, airier, fluffier, for lack of a better word. And you relied only on like a guitar for any kind of distorted kind of heaviness most of the time. This time around, Jimmy Waldo, who's like the big Hammond through a Marshall John Lord style player, really adds that combination when you mix that with the guitar together. It really creates a very unique sound. He's kind of the dirt in between your sock and your shoe, that kind of that grit and grind. I know he doesn't like that, but hey, too bad, he'll get over it. You know, it's a compliment. Because a lot of times keyboards don't have that. Keyboards are all, you know, riffing around and stuff like that, but it's just it's not a guitar, but it's in that realm of that heaviness, and that definitely just adds a heaviness. Then you take that and where as much as Simone was playing the leads and he played amazing leads, overly melodic, just great. I told him, hey, why don't you just go play anywhere in the song that you feel like playing, and then we'll worry about it later and we'll see if things work. And he played a lot of those kind of Gary Moore, Lukather, Neil Sean kind of parts that are in verses, parts that are in choruses that are behind. There are melody lines going on behind, like a rhythm guitar kind of thing. And that's really a big difference. I think this is one of those kind of bands where you listen to, you know, a cover band would listen to and go, oh, this is no big deal. You know, I hear what it's doing. But then when you start breaking it down, you're like, well, wait a minute. What's that? I don't, you know, that kind of thing. So just the level of playing and the level of players really just taking it out. But at the same time, it's about the band and the music. It wasn't about, hey man, check me out. You know, it was about the band and the music. And again, you know, the word gets thrown around a lot, but just being professional. Let's just like professional.
Hmm. And about the artwork, did you say you had Hugh Syme work on the new
Yeah.
album?
Hugh did the first album. Hugh did the second album. I've known Hugh since, well, when I first joined Fate's Warning, he did the Perfect Symmetry album. Actually, I got the bass drum. See, back in the day, you didn't have the graphic artists where you go to like a Remo, the head company, and they do these wonderful things. You have to print it on like a really thick paper, then you cut out the circle and then you glue it to the bass drum head. And I have one out here, the extra one that's framed. So I've known Hugh for quite a while, and um, he was just a guy. I always loved his stuff. I loved the tongue in cheek. And again, I thought to myself, if you're going to go, Mark, don't have your daughter make the album cover or, and I talked to other people and people turn stuff in and I was just like, oh my God, this is god awful. Hey, let me rephrase that. It wasn't god awful. What it was would look like everybody else's album cover that was out there. Some serpents and dragons and Vikings and Moses crossing the desert and castles and dungeons, and that's not what this band was. So I got on the phone with Hugh and I just, I gave him a call and, he knew that we're not Rush or Dream Theater or Megadeth in the money department kind of thing, but he's willing to work with us. And the first album cover, I just told him the name of the band and he came back with the zebra and the apple. Um, that was just him. He wanted lyrics and melody lines. And besides the fact that we didn't have any at the time, we hadn't gotten that far down the line. Um, I don't like it when the art reflects like one song, maybe. I don't like that. It's like, and it's also like naming your album after like your hit song. I don't like that so much. The second one though, with the alligator and the zipper, the old A through Z combo there. My friend Mark Cubbage and I were just throwing around the A through Z words and kind of getting stupid and silly, see what we come up with. And he kind of fell on the old alligator and the zipper. And I told Hugh exactly what we wanted, and then Hugh ran with it. That one, alligator zipper, go figure it out. And he did. And I'm not sure if they sent you more than just the cover because there's artwork all over the album. It's a big booklet. We put special attention into the labels that are on the discs, the labels that are on the vinyl. It's a complete package. Everything that we can think of to be creative, we do.
Right. No, I haven't seen that. My computer's a mess right now, and I, but I look forward to checking that out. The graphics. So I'm glad you take the graphics seriously. What about touring and performing live? What's the sights for that?
We've been on it for day one. We have the label with some of their people helping out as far as various agents that we've talked to, different, booking people, trying to set something up. It's an absolute must. Um, Very quick story. We do the video for Nothing Is Over and The Remedy, and we're in a big warehouse, and I'm the only one technically playing. Everybody else is, fake playing, but playing the drums. I got to play all 15 takes because I'm in the background of everybody's shot. And I got my in-ears in, and I got the click, and I got the music, and I'm jamming like it's like no tomorrow. And I just looked out and I felt it. I felt the magic. You're talking about all these guys are basically rock stars in their own right, as far as live performance type guys. I mean, Philip Bino, the bass player that I've played with for a long time, in Warlord, like I used to say, he's the only guy that I know that can occupy half a stage, not move, and you will not take your eyes off of him, kind of thing. He's that guy. Um, but absolutely, we realize that it's 60 to 70% of this whole thing. It's great to have a great album. It's great to have great videos. It's great to have the label behind you, which they're absolutely behind us. They're absolutely supporting the band. They brought everybody out from around the world for 5 days in LA to do videos and photo shoots and all that kind of stuff. So they're invested. We need to get out and play, and it'll be amazing. But we really, no, this is a band. It's never been a project. It's always been a band. And it's tough to tour, obviously. It's not the 80s anymore. So they're looking. There's a good possibility, especially the way this day and age, the way everything kind of moves slower than quicker, that the album needs to come out. It needs to make a little noise. And then it's kind of like, oh, wow, check that out. Wow, everybody's listening to this song or whatever the case may be. And then you might get a little bit more, but no, they're trying and they're pushing, and there's, higher up people at the label making the phone calls and staying on things and trying to get us on something. And we're not sitting back waiting for the ideal tour. We know that we need to kind of get up and get out and go play, and everybody's looking forward to it. That's the great part. Everybody's dying to go play.
That's great. Now, you don't all live nearby each other, do you? Or are you sort of geographically spread out, or?
Yeah, that's the understatement. You got basically Nick and I in the LA area, even though we don't live close to each other, close enough, 40 miles away, 30 miles away. Yeah, Philip's in Arizona, Jimmy's in Chicago, Ray's in Spain, and Simone's in Italy. So you kind of got a little spread out thing going on there, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned Simone mixing the album, is that right?
Yep.
And why did you go with Simone to do that? What was it about his mix that stood out to you?
Two things stood out. I listened when I did the 9 auditions. This is on the previous album. When I did the 9 auditions, like I said, I had a guy that won 9 Grammys, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, because I was lucky enough to get to him through the microphone company that I'm at. It's not like we're buddies. It's like the connection thing. And I had to mix one song. Obviously, I had to pay all these guys to do this. We're not doing it for free, and it was horrible. I mean,
Hmm.
it was just it wasn't happening. Definitely not happening. Simone's mix was basically when I first heard it, just the first 4 bars, I went, okay, okay, now we got something. And then I got deeper into it, and basically we worked it to the point where it's like, okay, get rid of all the samples you got going on. Okay, you got the sampled kick thing, you got the sampled snare thing. I can hear it. We can all hear it. I know everybody's doing it these days, but we're not doing it. Okay, there's way too much time, energy, money into recording. Behind me over there, raw, great sounding drums. I have a great engineer that comes in to get the sounds kind of thing. I have an analog console, all the analog old school stuff for that warm sound. So no, get rid of all that. And we started building it from there. And it really is something. I think that it sounds like an analog record, even though it's technically not an analog record. It wasn't done on tape, but you put those ingredients in from the beginning, just raw drums, man. That's all it is, just raw. It's a 4-piece kit. There's 13 mics, and he did his magic. And I even think this one, since it's even a thicker record with the extra guitar and the extra keys and all that kind of stuff, just amazing clean sounds. It sounds like a band playing. It doesn't sound cut up to the grid. We don't do that. We don't do the big sample thing. You don't hear every snare hit that's perfect. There's breathing in it, there's dynamics, there's buildups of dynamics and stuff like that. That when you're playing around with samples, you have to work way too hard to make it sound halfway normal. So just old school. It's totally old school is what it is.
Do you feel like it came to fruition from your original concept before anything and anyone had talked about it?
I think it went above and beyond. I knew for a fact that once I started going with Nick Van Dyke and writing material, since it was like a new thing, so we were writing in the direction. I knew it would be fine because if the core is fine and you feel great about just a guitar and drums, that's it. You're on to something. And then when Philip comes in and he puts the bass on, and I'm pushing him to play more and play more, and play tight to me during these fills. You can play off of me, but I want you to come out. I want the bass to come out. I want each guy to shine in their own way, because all that creativeness just makes the A through Z sound. And that's what's unique about it. Simone, the same thing. He'd play a lead, and the lead was great during the chorus. It's this memorable lead, is very non-shreddy, just very notey, and I mean very melodic. And then Ray would sing the chorus out, and I'd say, "Hey, man, just keep playing that line behind his vocal." So all of a sudden you got a chorus out, but that chorus compared to the other two has that memorable line that you're playing because it's memorable. So trying to get as much melody in as it could. And when I started hearing those things going on, and these little picking parts that he would play, behind, like, yeah, and especially knowing how he mixed the first one, uh, I was I was surprised, just because I love hearing things new, and it's like a birth. It's like new. You've never heard it before. But it didn't shock me like, oh my God, I didn't know this was going to happen. I was hoping this was going to happen, but no, it really hit it on the head. I think we basically had the equivalent of about 10 singles that could all be various different things. And it's so funny because when I do interviews and I've even seen it in the press, everybody seems to have like a different favorite song. And, the prog heads kind of lean a little this way. The hard rock guys kind of lean a little that way. You got a lot of people talking about Now I Walk Away as the 2025 power ballad kind of thing. A lot of open air, a lot of space. So no, I think it's just, I couldn't be happier, very happy that the label stepped up, that they're in it. Very happy that all the guys, are my friends, guys that you love, guys that you trust. I don't have to worry about, anything basically. We need to get into a different audience. And the label agrees. They say we're the only band on the label that should be able to cross over in various different genres. Now, I understand this isn't the 80s and it's not the 90s, but at the same time, you get a song going somewhere. Like I said, maybe a beer commercial, a car commercial, whatever, like in a different arena and people hear it and pick up on it, then they'll start checking the record out. That's the big thing. We need to be, you got all these guys that are kind of from a certain genre that have their certain fan base and following, the prog side of things, the hard rock, whatever you want to call it. But, this band could open up for, anything from Styx to Foreigner to Journey to Whitesnake over here. I mean, granted, we're not opening up for Slayer, that's not going to happen. But you can kind of run the gamut. I mean, you could open up for Priest. That wouldn't be a problem. The band's strong enough, loud enough, heavy enough. Just getting the right opportunity and kind of just ramming through the door is what we need to do. We need to get that right opportunity to go out and play in front of people that might not have heard us as much as, our diehard fans would have.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Mark. This is
Oh, absolutely, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
yeah, yeah. So we'll keep in touch and have a great
Absolutely.
rest of your evening over there.
You too. If you need anything, let me know. If my email's real simple. They have it at the label and Rowie or whoever you got the information from, from Roy or whatever. Just
Roy?
let me know. We'll get in
Okay.
touch.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks for
All
your
right.
time, man.
Thank you. Take
Take
care.
care.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.